Her Grant dock lit up suggesting mode, and he wrote me out. The banner arrived with the innocent arrogance only office software can pull off. Naomi turned on suggesting, Google Docs announced, sliding over my lock screen like a coworker who's learned to whisper your name at the worst part of the movie. Beneath it, a second line I didn't earn. You can now comment on Coalition Proposal V7. We have a shared drive for house things, receipts, after-school forms, the file where we pretend budgets are a moral instead of a guess. Sometimes Docs confuses our lives. Tonight it confused on purpose. I tapped without heroism. The screen opened to a clean serif and a paragraph I recognized. Naomi's language, quick and exact, the way she makes donors forgive statistics. Green lines appeared in the margins. Replace pilot with prototype RC, move outcomes above methods RC, and then the one I read twice to watch it not improve. We can finalize in the booth after. 11:30. Room name Mercury RC. Mercury is the narrow soundproof coffin in Corridor A at the Commons. My stomach named it before my brain bothered to be reasonable. Naomi had texted at 8, panel, donors, quick drink, don't wait up, with the green heart she uses when she wants me to collaborate with her lateness. We've been solving that algebra since spring, when her center learned to pronounce checks from men in navy coats. One of them is Rowan. He curates money like an exhibition, and people like captions under glass. His initials in my margins made the file feel like a room I didn't consent to. I stared at suggesting mode with the kind of prayer you make when you want the cursor to apologize. It didn't. It blinked, patient as an accomplice. The dog blinked back at me from his rug, dignified in the face of my posture. Cold pasta waited with the kind of optimism reheats deserve. I put the phone down, pretended I wanted to be civilized, then picked it back up and did the only thing that makes sense after dark. I walked to Loom. Loom smells like orange peel and reprieve. The lights are warm enough to imagine you can be forgiven, bright enough to keep you from lying in public. Anna stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled, wiping a clean surface the way careful people pray. The pale crescent scar on her wrist caught the light like a modest alarm. She poured water before I remembered I was thirsty. "Which tool wrote your name into a room you didn't choose?" she asked. "Docs," I said, suggesting mode, his initials in her edges, a booth named Mercury at 11:30. Anna's mouth tilted, not unkind. "Spectacle is a sugar crash," she said, tapping the bar once like a metronome. "Mara will insist you cook." Mara sat in her corner, red scarf folded into compliance, notebook flattened by a rubber band, eyes tuned to collect accurate mistakes. I slid into the chair opposite and placed my phone face up like a reluctant witness. She read the margin, the initials, the room name that thought it was clever. "Bread or sugar?" she asked. "Bread," I said, and felt the word click into place like a seatbelt. "Good," she said. "Go home, turn on one lamp, put the file on the table, unlock the door for accuracy, not for guests. When she comes in, ask for one sentence you can live inside. Rehearse nothing. If you need to be mean, do it in your kitchen where cruelty is less theatrical." Docs tried one more push as I walked east. "Rowan replied to your comment," it announced, generous with the pronoun. I didn't open it. I took the long route past the Commons out of superstition dressed as rigor. The building's glass looked like it wanted to confess. Under the awning at 9th, the Arcadian pretended to be a moral. Navy stood beneath it, practicing benevolence against the weather. He didn't see me, or he preferred fiction. At home, I turned on the kitchen lamp, the one that makes the table brave, and opened the dock because ignoring is not a skill the house has taught me. The margin conversation glowed softly like gossip in a well-lit room. RC, outcomes first, then story. We can finalize in the booth after. NB, no booth. I'll send at noon. RC, brave or stingy. Mercury is better at hard sentences. NB, hard sentences belong to kitchens. RC, then invite me to the kitchen. NB, no. She written it an hour earlier. The thread ended there. It shouldn't matter how late a no arrives, but it always does and never should. I unlocked the door because Mara says accuracy is kinder than dignity. The dog padded in, circled once, and claimed the spot at Naomi's foot as if he could see her there already. She came in at 12, 17 with drizzle in her hair and the lanyard still around her neck like a task that forgot to end. She closed the door with that extra inch of care that forgives hinges. She saw the lamp, the dock on the screen, my hands behaving like furniture. She walked to the table and read the thread without flinching at her own tone. Docs loves a drama, she said, which is how we name stains before they become pattern. Mercury, I said. Accuracy, she said, and touch first if you can stand generosity. Touch then truth, I said, because my body wanted to go before my mouth. We didn't go to bed to erase margin notes. We went because bodies can keep promises while words find their verbs. She stood in front of me, and I raised the zipper of her dress slowly. Exact. The movement we reserve for nights we intend to be careful with what survives morning. The fabric made the small, honest sigh clothes make when they agree to stop pretending to be architecture. She placed my palm at her hip and pressed until stay remembered its job. I kissed the hinge of her jaw where her certainty keeps breathing, and she said my name in the version that means keep. We asked our short questions, here, slower, more, and answered in breath, the language that never tries to impress a third party. We laughed once because a sleeve attempted melodrama and she rescued me with her teeth. Heat arrived like tide. We met it where we always do, competent instead of cinematic. When we came apart together, the room believed in us again. After, with the window cracked so the city could practice weather for someone else, she rested her cheek on my chest and traced a small circle over the place where my worst ideas nap. Accuracy, she said into skin. Yes, I said. He wanted to finish the grant the way he finishes every performance, sealed behind glass and crowd-sourced applause, she said. He added himself because he thinks invitations are a formality. He likes commenting where someone else is already writing. And you, I said, because ritual has learned how to keep me small and helpful. I switched the doc from editing to suggesting because I wanted to watch his corrections look less inevitable, she said. I pinned the booth text because a petty part of me wanted to feel brave declining it. I wrote no with both hands. I wanted the record. Then I climbed the dumb back stairs because I still like the feeling of deciding with my breath and not my eyes. Mercury stayed empty, I said, letting the room believe that. I canceled the reservation from the elevator, she said. I wrote the outcomes above his methods and sent the draft to myself because grants are due even when you want to be someone's interesting mistake. I let the cursor blink itself tired. We went back to the table because kitchens have better acoustics for truth. The doc waited. Naomi toggled suggesting off, as if turning down the volume on a ghost. She removed Rowan from the share list with a click that felt erotic in its precision. She added a new comment only I could see. Signed in kitchen. I'm not pure, she added, because our pipework respects ceremony. I wanted to be edited by a person who looks good holding a pen. Then I wanted to be kept by a person who looks good holding a spoon. I am trying to want the second first. We need rules, I said, because ritual holds my chest where pride would otherwise make a mess. Tools, not bars. She smiled the way she does when we build the thing we'll need later. We wrote them on the back of her panel agenda with the pencil in the drawer that refuses to retire. 1. No private collaborators we wouldn't invite to our table. If a doc needs another set of initials, the kitchen says the name before the share button does. 2. Comments are not rooms. Booths are not churches. Edits are not consent. 3. Novelty is a chore. Your weeks, wrong hour for the right thing. My weeks, move the furniture until the light has to remember us. 4. When either of us misses being revised by the wrong gaze, we say it out loud and do 3 stupid, ordinary things until wanting behaves. Peel oranges over the sink. Play 1 song to the end before anything important. Kiss in the doorway so the apartment believes us. We did them because midnight respects checklists. We peeled oranges. The bright smell turned the room forward. We played the song that knows the difference between apology and talent. We stood in the doorway and kissed until the pipes clicked like elderly witnesses, swearing we weren't lying. In the morning, I removed my account from the shared folder that thinks house and work should hold hands. I created a new one labeled simply kitchen only and shared it with exactly 2 names. I set docs to ask me out loud before it adds anyone to anything with our initials. Naomi made coffee and read me a student paragraph about restraint that didn't make either of us want to change professions. Discipline is desire with track changes, she said, rolling her eyes at her own earnestness and liking it anyway. I want hours. At lunch, because superstition wears research like a raincoat, I passed the Commons. The Atlas booth's light was on, a little aquarium for sentences. In the corridor, I saw a Navy coat through the glass of Mercury, speaking into a phone like it was an audience that owed him a grant. He didn't see me, or he preferred to pretend his reflection was a friend. I went a loom because victory tastes better when Anna names it and Mara ignores it on purpose, which is how she says continue. Anna slid me a cookie I pretended to refuse. Her eyebrow insisted I needed bread. Bread, she said, tapping the counter like an oath. Sometimes the world tries again. The doorbell guesses names and guesses wrong. The Ride app wants to round up to charity to make us feel moral about not walking. The TV autoplays a life where the funny line arrives on time and saves everything. Docs proposes smart suggestions at 2 a.m. like clarity is a software feature. We put whatever it is on the table, turn on 1 lamp, and ask for 1 sentence we can live inside. It keeps being enough until it isn't, and then we add a rule instead of a scene. On Thursday, Naomi texted from 2 blocks away, "Bring a lemon to loom. Sister mismanaged tea." I brought 2. Her sister cried into pastry and then laughed in the register Naomi loves most. We walked home in a rain that had finally decided to be weather. That night we moved the couch 2 inches and the light forgot and remembered us, which we took as proof that rooms and people can be trained. Last night, alone for an hour I didn't want, I opened a new doc and titled it Room 0. Inside I wrote the only agenda I trust: lamp on, 2 people, oranges, 1 song, doorway. When Naomi came in without a lanyard, she saw the screen and the lamp and put her hand on my chest like a sentence she intended to keep. "Accept," she said, not as a question but as a ceremony. I turned off suggesting and we wrote the night by hand. The ceiling forgave us for practicing again. And this morning, for once, the margins were empty. The track changes quiet. The cursor content to blink without asking to be part of a story that isn't ours.